Canto 17. Summary. The travelers come out of the smoke and into the light of the setting sun. As they head toward the stairs that will lead them up, Dante again is given a series of visions, this time each portraying an example of wrath. First he sees Philomela's sister Procne, who, as told in the Metamorphoses, had been turned into a nightingale. Procne's fate is the result of wrath. The wife of Tereus, she killed her son and fed him to her husband, the boy's father, in revenge, after he ravished Philomela and cut out her tongue so that she could never reveal what had happened. The second vision is of Haman, from the Book of Esther, being crucified after his plot to destroy the Jews is discovered. Dante bases this image on a mistranslation in the Vulgate that depicted Haman as having died by crucifixion and not by hanging. The third vision is of an unnamed young woman bewailing her mother's suicide. Amata, the wife of King Latinus, had killed herself in a fit of rage when she heard that her daughter Lavinia would marry Aeneas rather than Turnus. The visions disperse and Dante finds himself walking with Virgil. They hear a voice direct them to the stairway. It is another angel poised to brush another pea off of Dante's forehead. Immediately afterwards he hears sung Beati Pacifici, or Blessed are the peacemakers, countering the vicious habit of wrath being purged on the third terrace, now behind them. As they climb, night descends and they are unable to go any further. Dante asks what vice is purged on the terrace they are coming to. Virgil responds with a discourse on the structure of Purgatory. See Inferno 11 for a similar treatment of hell. On the fourth terrace, the love of the good falling from its duty is restored. The vicious habit purged here is sloth, the sin of misdirected energies and slow affection for what is proper and right. Everyone, he continues, has love, and our souls are necessarily postured toward some end by means of that love. This love can be divided into two categories, one originating in nature and the other in the soul. Natural love, or inclination, is not rational. It is the desire of a created thing for its natural habitat. For instance, what we call gravity, the medievals and ancients would call natural love. Because this natural love is not rational, it does not involve an act of will that can make morally wrong decisions. Instead, it can do nothing but seek its own perfection, whether it is matter falling down to earth or fire rising upward toward the heavens. With human beings, the story is different. Our natural, non-rational love still desires perfection, like the rest of creation. But the love of the soul is guided by reason, which can be deceived. As such, it can be wrong, erring in three primary ways, as Virgil explains. First, man can love his own self at the expense of his neighbor, either as superior, pride, or in fear of getting less than him, envy, or in anger over perceived injury, wrath. Second, man can inordinately love lesser goods, seeing in them the means of his own perfection, the lesser good of possessions, avarice, the lesser good of food, gluttony, or the lesser good of sex, lust. Finally, as already mentioned, man can be sluggish in his love for his own perfection, which leads to sloth. In short, all disordered loves will either be misplaced, excessive, or deficient. In this way, the created world remains truly good. It is man's posture toward the individual goods in this world which determines whether his love errs or not. Canto 17. The Structure of Purgatory. Remember, reader, if ever a cloud gathered round you in the mountains through which you saw no more than a mole through its skin, how, when the hefty and humid vapors began to thin themselves out, and the sphere of the sun tenuously parted them, and your imagination will quickly come to see how I first saw, once again, the sun, which by now was at its setting. Therefore, matching mine to the trusted steps of my master, I came out of that cloud, to the rays now dying on the shores below. O imagination, which sometimes steals us away so that we do not notice, although 1,000 trumpets sound around, who moves you, if senses offer you not? A light, formed in the heavens, moves you by itself or by a will that sends it down. Of the impiety of her who changed form into the bird that most loves to sing, tracks appeared in my imagination. Here my mind was so closed within itself that nothing was coming from the outside, which then could have been taken in by it. Afterwards there rained down into my high fantasy one crucified, his face fierce and spiteful, and in such a way he died. By him stood the great Ahasuerus, Esther his wife, and the just Mordecai, whose speech and action were wholly sincere. And as this image ruptured by itself in the same way as a bubble removed from the water beneath which it is made, there rose in my vision a little girl weeping noisily, who was saying, "O Queen, why for wrath have you willed to be nothing? You chose death to not lose Lavinia, and now you have lost me. I grieve, mother, for your ruin before any others." As sleep shatters when suddenly new light strikes the eyes that are shut, and, being broken, leaps about before it fully passes. In this way my imagining fell down quickly when the light struck me in the face, greater far than that which we are used to. I was turning round to see where I was when a voice said, "Here is where one mounts up," and removed from me every other thought. And it made my will so very eager to see who was speaking that it never would settle unless confronted with it. But as with the sun that weighs down our sight and veils its figure through excessive light, so too there my faculty was lacking. This is the divine spirit that straightens us on the way upward without being asked, and with his own light he conceals himself. As one does for himself, so he with us, for he who, seeing the need, waits to be asked, already cruelly is set to say no. Now let us match our feet to his bidding, let us try to climb before it grows dark, for then none could until the day returns. So enjoined my leader, and I with him we directed our steps toward a stairway, and as soon as I was at the first step, I felt almost the movement of a wing, wind on my face, and one saying, "Beate pacifici," who are without foul wrath. Already the final rays followed by the night had so far risen above us that stars were appearing on many sides. "O my strength, why do you vanish away?" I was saying to myself, for I then felt the power of both my legs suspended. We were there where the stairway leading up was no longer rising, and we were fixed just as a ship that is beached on the shore. And I waited a little, just in case I heard anything in the new circle. Then I turned round to my master and said, "My sweet father, which offense does one purge here in this circle where we are? If feet be still, let not your speech be still as well." And he said to me, "The love of the good, falling from its duty, is here restored. Here beats again the shamefully late oar. But that you may more plainly understand, turn your mind to me, and you will receive some beneficial fruit from our delay. Neither maker, my son, nor maid," he said, "was ever without love, and this you know, either natural or that of the soul. The natural is always without fault, but the other can err with wrong objects, or with too much or too little vigor. As long as it is well aimed at the first and remains moderate in the second, it cannot be the cause of foul delights. But when it turns to the evil, or runs to the good with more or less care than owed, the creature strives against his Creator. From this you can fathom that love must be the seed of every virtue in yourselves, and every action that earns punishment. Now because love can never turn its face from the health of its subject, everything is preserved against hatred of itself. And since none can be thought of as standing apart or divided from the first being, all creatures are cut off from that hatred. This leaves, if I judge right, these divisions, that the evil loved is for one's neighbor, and this love your clay brings forth in three ways. There is one who, through curbing his neighbor, hopes for excellence, and for that alone longs that from his greatness he be brought low. There is one who fears to lose power, grace, honor, and fame as others gain greatness, and is so grieved he loves the contrary. And there is one who through injury seems so offended he becomes a glutton for vengeance, and must shape another's harm. One weeps for these three forms of love below. Now I want you to discern the other that runs after the good in crooked ways. Each one confusedly sees and desires a good in which he might quiet his soul, therefore each one contends to receive it. If sluggish love draws you to perceive it or to obtain it, this cornice, after just repentance, disciplines you for that. There are other goods that make none happy. They are neither happiness nor the good essence of every good the fruit and root. The love that too much abandons itself is wept up above us in 3 circles, but how one speaks of it as tripartite, I am mute, that you may see for yourself.